2 years since Doctor Who first hit the airwaves, and Dalek mania has hit with a vengeance. So, the producers, I guess, decided to make a Doctor Who movie, and since some folks probably didn't see the original run, they decided why not show the Doctor versus the Daleks. Obviously, things have been changed here and there, but basically, it's the same story as the second ever serial in Doctor Who. But this time, Doctor Who is a human scientist, played magnificently by Peter Cushing, aka Grand Moff Tarkin. And you don't see any hint of the character he plays from Star Wars. He's just a kindly, if slightly curmudgeon, old man. And it starts out pretty simple. We have the Doctor and his two granddaughters, yes, two, Barbara, and her younger sister, Susan. Now, Barbara is dating Ian in this timeline. And in case you're wondering, well, I'll save that for later. Like I said, Ian and Barbara are dating, and while the Doctor, or should I say, while Susan is, I did it again. Okay, I'm plowing through this. I'm unscripted, and I'm going to own it. So, yeah. While Barbara is getting ready for the date with Ian, the Doctor shows him his invention, TARDIS, the titular police box. Only it's not quite the way it looks in the show. It's big on the inside, that's for sure, but it's not very tidy. It's mainly a mess of wires and gewgaws and doodads. And when Susan enters the TARDIS, because she went looking for everybody, Ian, who's a bit of a goober in this continuity, ends up hitting the activation lever before the Doctor sets any controls. So they go whizzing off to who knows where, and end up in a petrified forest. And a mysterious box ends up getting left for them, which they later find while they're exploring. And it's full of chemicals that the Doctor will examine later. Also, in the distance from the forest, they find a city. And he and Susan are kind of a bad influence on each other. They quietly decide to go looking about, despite the fact that there are petrified animals in the forest, meaning this place is very not conducive to human life. So, the Doctor pretends that one of his ship's components needs a refill of mercury, and he takes everybody to the city to look for it. And that was a bad idea, because lo and behold, it's populated by the Daleks. Originally, they were just silver with a little bit of blue and very, very small lights on their domes. But these guys, they look unbelievable. You can still clearly see that they are Daleks. But the main army is, of course, blue with a bit of silver trim. You got a red second in command and the Dalek Supreme, which is black, silver, and gold. And and they are immediately hostile towards the group. Ian tries to make a break for it and gets gassed. Originally, they were supposed to have flamethrowers, but the producers thought the Daleks would be too scary with flamethrowers, because goodness forbid that the Daleks be scary. So instead, they get gas guns, which can paralyze and, if set properly, destroy. Ultimately, the Daleks interrogate everybody and find out that there are drugs which shield against radiation on the TARDIS. So, Susan is sent alone into the woods to look for them. Now, this is a little more harrowing because she's not a teenager, she's a child. So, you really feel for her. Luckily, she finds friends, the Thals, which look very Aryan, but thankfully are pacifists. And they are responsible for the drugs. They even give Susan a double dose, so even if the Daleks take the original batch of drugs, she and her friends can still get inoculated. And the guy she meets, the one holding that paper in the picture, gives her a plastic cape to help protect against good fashion. I don't know. Anyway, turns out the Thals are looking for food because their own supply has run out, and they're hoping to make peace with the Daleks. Unfortunately, anyone who knows the Daleks knows that's not going to happen. Ultimately, they trick the Thals into the city with promises of food, and it's up to the Doctor and his friends to save them. They trick a Dalek into getting trapped and blinded and disarmed and ultimately depowered by disconnecting it from the floor, which is loaded with static electricity. And while Ian and the Doctor get to see what a Dalek really looks like, the audience only gets to see a three-fingered webbed claw partially wrapped up in that cape. And Barbara and Susan never get to see it. And that sort of adds to the terrifying mystery that is the Daleks. Meanwhile, Ian gets inside the chassis and the team bluff their way past one of the Daleks into an elevator. And unfortunately, that doesn't last long because the Daleks are not that stupid. They are quickly found out, and we do get to see a Dalek wielding a flamethrower, only it's not really a long-range weapon so much as an acetylene torch. And ultimately, they barely get out of that situation by the skin of their teeth and warn the Thals, but not in time to save the leader of the group, the guy with the silver hair. Ultimately, they decide to leave, but unfortunately, the Doctor lost the fluid link that he was carrying, the component, thanks to the Daleks. So they got to get back into the city and get it. But the Thals really don't want to get involved in another war. They barely survived the last one. But thanks to a bit of sort of cheeky manipulation by the Doctor and Ian, involving potentially trading one of the Thal females for the fluid link and getting her boyfriend to punch poor Ian to prove that the Thals still have some backbone, they ultimately come up with a two-pronged attack plan. Some of them are going to sneak in the back way, past a very dangerous swamp, and past an equally dangerous mountain pass, while everyone else is going to use reflective surfaces to confuse the scanners at the gate of the Dalek city. Unfortunately, it doesn't last very long, and the frontal attack gets captured. And the Doctor and Susan find out that the Daleks plan to detonate another atomic bomb in order to flood the planet with more radiation, because while the Daleks have evolved to require lots of radiation, the Thals don't. And they want to get rid of the Thals because Dalek's going to do what Dalek's going to do. And they're going to flood the planet with so much radiation that not even their wonder drug can shield the Thals. Or our heroes, for that matter. So, ultimately, the team that went in through the mountain pass managed to get in, but they get cornered. Luckily, a few of the other Thals from the frontal attack managed to sneak back in and send a few Daleks down an elevator shaft. And from there, it's basically a free-for-all. The Daleks are trying to gas everyone, and unfortunately, they panic easily, and that is their greatest weakness. They panic easily. The quicker and smarter Thals manage to get the Daleks to accidentally shoot each other, and Ian bravely gets the Daleks to shoot at him and subsequently destroy their main computer, which stops their bomb countdown with 3 seconds to spare. Ultimately, the Thals and Team TARDIS win the day. Everybody gets a plastic cape, and ultimately, with the planet, which is never named but is obviously known as Skaro by the fans, is in good Thal hands, and our human friends can finally go home. Unfortunately, when they do finish teleporting the TARDIS, it lands in front of some stock footage of people in Roman gear, causing poor Ian to panic comically and try to get them the heck out of Dodge and away from the Romans. Overall, Doctor Who and the Daleks is pretty decent. Ian's comic relief nature is a little played up, but overall he is a crouching moron, hidden hero type. So he's got that going for him. While everyone's performance is kind of flat-ish, the Daleks more than make up for it with their overall, I don't want to say personality because they don't have any, but their overall nature kind of bolstered the performances of everyone around them. And anyone who didn't see the original second Doctor Who serial is basically getting the whole story in a scant hour and 23 minutes. Yeah, an hour and 23 minutes. I would say it's 3 out of 5 stars on Rotten Tomatoes. At least that's what I suggested it be. It's very 1960s. The Dalek City is decorated very gauchely, and the music is very, actually, it's very 70s in some places. It's not a bad movie, but if you're looking for heavy action and you grew up on Michael Bay and that sort of thing, it'll feel rather slow. But if you're patient, there's a decent payoff. This is Mr. J signing out and reminding you, never trust a Dalek and always trust a doctor. And sometimes kid actors are halfway decent. Stay tuned because next time I'll be checking out the next Doctor Who movie, Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD. Allons-y.